Welcome to the second video on kitchen planning. For today's video, we will be adding appliances to our first kitchen plan that we designed. And those appliances will be a dishwasher, a fridge, a stove or oven, and a sink. So to begin, we'll open up the DesignCAD program and the kitchen drawing that we did last class. We can draw these appliances anywhere and place them where we need to. That's probably the easiest. And the easiest appliance to draw is our dishwasher. To draw our dishwasher, we're going to use the box drawing tool. So click on the box drawing tool, and we're simply going to just select a point here to start by left clicking. And with the box drawing tool, we're going to use point relative to put in both x and y values. So point relative, x is going to be 2 feet and y is going to be 2 feet. Now what that does, it allows x to go 2 and y to go 2 all in one operation. This dishwasher needs to be hidden because it's going to be placed underneath the cabinet, so we're going to double click on that and change this to a hidden line. And I believe we used 1 as our scale. Now looking at my drawing, I think this scale is a little bit too big. I'm going to decrease the scale to 0.5. And because I'm doing that, I'm going to also decrease the scale on my overhang to 0.5 to match. We're going to place the letter T, or using the text tool, which is the letter T, we're going to type in the letter D, capital D. And that was, I believe, 0.3 for the size. No, that's a little small. Let's try 0.5. And that will be placed in the middle just by left clicking and then pressing enter. Now, if it goes at an angle on you, that's okay. Just press enter and it will go straight. We want this grouped, so we're just going to draw a box around it. The quick way to go to grouping is here. If you hold this down, you can see there's group, group explode. Only grouping is highlighted. So we group it, and this now becomes a group which I can move. I'm just going to move this right in this area here, and I'm just going to move it manually. I'm not going to snap it into place. I just want to put it so it's not touching the front or back wall, and just beside the window here. Actually, I'm going to zoom in so I can place it a little bit nicer. Again, I'm just going to put it about there. Now, the dishwasher is placed beside the sink. And the reason we do that is because we steal the plumbing, basically, for the dishwasher. The drain plumbs into the sink drain, and we also get our water, which tees off from our sink. So that's why the proximity to the sink. Also, it's just better design. We can take and rinse off our dishes and then just put them directly into the dishwasher without dripping across the floor. Another possible location would be on the island. However, you're still going to be a little bit farther away, and then you can't use the plumbing that we have already in place from the sink. I'm going to zoom in so that we can draw the sink in this location again, and we're going to place it. The sink is 2 foot 7 inches wide by 1 foot 9 inches deep. And we're going to be drawing this with individual lines so that we can parallel them. So begin by getting the ortho line drawing tool, and we're just going to draw it in here and then move it into place. So we'll just click to start, point relative, 2 foot 7 inches. Enter and enter. Then we're going to parallel that down 1 foot 9 inches. Left click and down and left click. And we'll simply just connect the dots here, double click on this, right click, right click, right click, and right click. Now we want to put a line right in the middle. This is going to be a double sink, and it's just going to be equal on the right and the left. To do that, we're going to use the parallel tool again. And first of all, what we need to do is find half. Now, in order to find half, we're going to use every tool as its own calculator. So if I type in 2 foot 7 inches, move my mouse away, it will convert it to a decimal. Then I could click in there again and go /2, which is divide by 2. And it gives me 1.2917. So now I should be able to parallel this inwards, 1.2917, and this will be equal to this side. I guess the border of the sink, the lip of the sink, is going to be 1 inch all the way around. So get your parallel tool. You can see that's my favorite tool. And type in 1 inch and simply left click inwards. I'm going to just now double click on this and do this all the way around. The middle line is going to be paralleled 1/2 inch to the right and 1/2 inch to the left. So I could just go /2 really. And that'll give me 1/2 inch because I already put in 1/2 inch. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see this now. Now we're going to take and trim the corners. And that is found under my trim tools, the second one right here. Double click on the trim tool and left click. And you can see that I'm not snapping. I'm just left clicking near the line. And we also want to do the middle. However, we want to just delete the middle line. So I grab my cursor, clicked on it, and pressed the delete key. And what I want to do here is break this before I trim it. So to do that, I'm going to press the letter D. And when I press the letter D, I get the section trim. So I can draw a little box right here by just, you can see I can drag it. I can even do the whole thing because I want to get rid of both sides. And now that it's broken, I can now use that same trim tool that I used before, that's that second one in, to trim here and here, here and here, as well as the bottom. Now this is a nice square sink, pretty modern looking, but let's add some chamfers to that. The outside chamfers, we're going to have to play around with this because I'm not sure what I'm going to use. Let's see what 1 inch looks like. One inch on distance 1 and 2, and we'll left click and left click. Okay, let's now see what we can do for the inside chamfer before we decide. Usually we don't use the same chamfer because then this just becomes a bigger space. So I'm actually liking the 1 inch for the inside. So let's use the 1 inch for the inside. I'm going to Control Z those two, or Edit Undo. And I'll go back to here and I'll just do the inside one more time. And let's see what the outside. Actually, let's now do all of the inside. So I'm going to double click on this and do all of these with 1 inch chamfer. Left click tool. Just as long as you're closer to that line than any other line. And remember, Control Z or Edit Undo is your best friend. So if you use that when you make a mistake, you won't pull out your hair too often. So now let's try 1.5 or 1.5 inches for the outside and see what this looks like. I keep on pressing tab to get me here and it doesn't like that. Okay, let's see what that looks like. 1.5. Now visually that looks a lot more appealing. It's fairly even as I go around that corner. So we'll do that the same on the 4 corners. Okay, and there you have it, the sink. We're not going to bother putting in a faucet at this time. I want to group it. So with my cursor, I'm going to select all of those pieces and select Group Define. Now that it is grouped, we need to take and snap it into place. So first of all, I'm going to get it closer to where I want it. And then I'm going to zoom back in. And I want to place it right in the middle of this point here. So if I can take, what can we do here? Let's grab the line drawing tool. And we're going to get midpoint snap, which is here. And we're just going to Oops, that was the wrong button I pressed. This is a left click tool. So that's the midpoint snap. And we're going to snap to that point, and then we're going to go down a certain amount. So we have 25-inch depth on the counter, and the sink is 1 foot 9 inches. So that is 12 and 9 is 21 inches. So if I subtract 25 minus 21, I get 4 inches. That means I want to go 2 inches on the front and 2 inches on the back, just to center it. So I'm going to go point relative, -2 inches, and enter. Now what that does is it gives me a point to snap from this point to here. So if I grab midpoint snap, will that work? No, I'm going to have to. I need a point to snap to. Now I'm not that comfortable with midpoint snap. I was hoping it would give me a point. How can I do this? Maybe I might have to take and just draw. So get your line drawing tool, get midpoint snap, and there we go. So we're going to get a point here, and we're just going to, oh, I right clicked again. I'll repeat that. Get line snap. Having a tough time with this. Get the line drawing tool, then get midpoint snap, then left click on this point and go down just a little bit and enter. This will give us a point to snap to and a point to snap from to, and from. I need to group this again. And now I can right click here, right click to pick it up, and right click to put it down. And there you have it. It's centered in the countertop. This I can delete. This line I don't need anymore, just by selecting it and pressing delete. This I cannot just select it and press delete because it's grouped. So I need to explode it. So I'm going to grab this tool right there, and that explodes it. Now I can select this point and delete it. That was a bit of a rigmarole, but I think you get the point. I'll recap. We're just drawing a line halfway, so the midpoint. Now this is a 4-foot window, so basically it's 2 feet this way and 2 inches down on the y-axis. Then I created a center point to snap this to the midpoint of this window. Okay, clear as mud. Now let's draw the fridge next. Now the fridge is going to go over here, so I'm just going to zoom into this part and draw the fridge here and then snap it into place. To draw the fridge, it's fairly simple. I'm just going to get my ortho line drawing tool, click here. I want to go left, and this is continuous lines, so point relative -2 foot 5 inches by 0 at this point. And then I'm going to go down 2 foot 6 inches, which is 30 inches. Pretty standard fridge size. However, they do make fridges, different sizes of fridges, so you have to be careful with this one. But that's a fairly standard fridge, and that went down to this point. And now I'm going to go point relative to the right, 2 foot 5 inches, 0 on the Y, and enter one more time. So this is one complete unit. I didn't draw the front of the fridge because I'm going to be paralleling it. And remember, if I parallel a box or a shape, it'll parallel the whole thing. I don't want that on the door. So grab the ortho line drawing tool and snap to this point and this point. Then you can proceed to parallel the door inwards. So we're going to get the parallel tool, type in 1.5 inches, and parallel this by left clicking and left clicking. Now I haven't saved this yet, so before I go any farther, I want to save this. Now this is still the kitchen plan, so we can probably just save right over top of that. File, save. We're just adding to it at this point. I wanted to save because hatching can crash your computer, and that's what I'm going to do next. Well, second next. I want to draw a little box here that's 2 inches down, 2 inches out, 2 inches down, and 2 inches in. And that's going to be the handle, which helps me indicate swing direction. So we'll grab the line drawing tool and simply just use XY coordinates to get us there. So right click or snap, point relative, -2 inches on the Y, point relative, 2 inches on the X, relative to -2 inches on the Y, and point relative -2 inches. There you have it. The handle. Just basically a box. We want to fill this with black. So to fill that with black, we go over here. This is our hatch tool. It's called hatch. Or if we go to the last one, that's called hatch fill. That's the one we want. When you get this box, you're going to click on this here. And these are all the different hatches that you can fill the box with. I'm going to go all the way down. And if you look on these, there's different ones here. But if I go up to Windows Solid or Win Solid, it's a solid color. And I press OK. And I simply take, it gives you some crosshairs, and I left click in the box and it will fill it. Okay, and we need a F on the fridge. So we're going to get the letter T or the text tool. It's already set to size of 0.5, which is perfect. We're going to put a capital F in the middle there. I'm just eyeballing this, left clicking when I think it's about centered. This needs to be grouped as well. So we're going to draw a box around it with our cursor and find our group tool, which is right there. And we group it so that we can move it. Now I can move it, but I want to move it to a specific point. So to move it to this point here, which is going to be 6 inches up, I just want to make a little point there to move it to. So I get my line drawing tool, right click at this point, select point relative, and I'm going to go 0 on the X and 6 inches on the Y. And then I'm going to move my mouse to the left and left click. We do this just so that this is combined. This is linked to that line, which is important so we can delete it later. Otherwise, if you draw lines upon lines on top of lines, it becomes messy and hard to work with later. So we don't want to get into that habit. So I'll put that line back and simply right click on this point to select the image, right click to pick it up, and then right click to put it down. I no longer need this line, so I can select it, press delete. Now you can see that this counter goes through the fridge. Well, that's not good. Let's take and get rid of that line simply by getting my extension tool, which is under my trim tools, and right clicking. Actually, I'm going to left click here because when you right click, you never know which line it's going to get. So see, when I right click, it is getting the right line, but it might select this one. So I can left click, then pull this up, and then right click. Now I just have to redraw that. Well, that's pretty simple. I just get my line drawing tool and snap, and enter. And that is your fridge. So let's zoom out and see what we have. So far we've drawn a dishwasher, a sink, and a fridge, but we need to have somewhere to cook our food. So that's our oven and our stove, and that's going to be right here. I'm going to draw it here and then bring it down to this location. So we're just going to zoom into this, and the stove or the oven, I'm not sure what we're calling it these days, is 2 foot 6 inches wide by 2 foot 2 inches deep. Now the width is a pretty common 30-inch stove, and that's fairly common for a 2 foot 2 inch depth. This one too we're going to do with individual lines that are not joined together because there's parallel going on. So we'll grab that ortholine drawing tool and start by going 2 foot 6 inches to the right, pressing enter, paralleling that down 2 foot 2 inches. Whoops, what's happening here? 2 foot 2 inches. So left click, down, left click. Grabbing the ortho line drawing tool, snapping to the outside corners, this is the outside of our oven. Now we're going to take and parallel the back up a couple inches. So using our parallel tool, type in 2 inches, left click, left click. And the front door, we're gonna make how about 1.5 inches? So 1.5 inches inwards, a little bit smaller, 1.5 inches. Left click, left click. And we are going to place some circles on here for burners. Now, this is kind of a, I guess you get to use your artistic license with this one. Let's see, which one are we going to use? Perhaps this first one? Yes, the first drawing tool, I can just grab my circles and drag them. So I'm going to do that. Copy, Control C and Control V. And then I'm going to do that again for these, but a different size. So perhaps a little bit smaller, maybe a little bigger. Maybe we'll do, let's just see what happens here. Let's push this one down. These are pretty big burners, it seems. And I've tried to come up with a way to center these and move them around with, giving you coordinates, and I've never got it to work. So I'm just saying, make it look good. Make it look even. If you don't like it, you can change it, move it. At first glance, this looks fairly decent. But I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on that. You don't need to watch me moving circles around. We'll leave it there. Now, I have some garbage on my screen. This refresh button helps take some of that away. So if you click that, or regenerate, I guess it's called, it'll take some of that away. This oven needs a handle. Now the handle is going to be on the front, and it's going to be 1.5 inches thick. It's going to come here at an angle of 45 degrees and here at 135. So we're going to parallel that 1.5 inches out, 1.5 inches. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe it's too much. 1.5, we're going to do it again, 1.5. Oh, that's pretty far out. I don't like that. I'm going to undo that. Let's do 1 inch. Let's make it look a little more sleek. So parallel this out 1 inch and another 1 inch. Now there's the handle part here. Now we have to connect it. Now I'm going to zoom in here. This is getting a little bit difficult to see. So to do that, let's take and draw. How much are we going to go? Let's go 1.5 inches in, and then we're going to make a little tail using our ortho line drawing tool. So I'm going to snap to this point, point relative, 1.5 inches on X, and I'm going to just bring this down because I'm going to delete that line later. And I'll do the same thing over here, but obviously a negative because I'm going left. Negative 1.5 inches and down. Now I want to put this up at 45 degrees, so we're going to use point puller. I showed you point puller in the last video. We need the line drawing tool. Snap to this point, and you can see that I want to be at 45 degrees, and we're going to type in a distance of about 3 inches or so. So point puller, which is to the right, the quick key is to the right of the letter L. Distance of, what did I say, 3 inches, and an angle of 45. Ooh, that barely made it. That just passed. I want it to pass. So I'm going to do the next one a little bit longer from this side. And I'm going to go this way, and I'll go 4 inches this time. So point puller, and distance of 4 inches. This time the angle is 135 degrees. There we go. That's better. This I don't need anymore, so I can click on it and press the delete key. I can click on this, press the delete key, and I can trim these. So to trim them, I can only actually trim the outside right now. So using my trim tool, the second one in, left click, that trimmed that up nicely. We'll do it again over here, and there we go. And I just need to parallel this one in 1.5 inches using my parallel tool, so 1.5 inches, which gives me that 0.125 equivalent. So click and move that in. Ooh, I think I made a mistake. I shouldn't have trimmed that. Click and bring that in. Well, maybe it worked. I'm going to zoom into here and see if that worked, because I don't know if that has to... Oh, doesn't connect. This is not good. It's not terrible, but it's not good. Because it doesn't connect, when I go to hatch fill it, I won't be able to. I also won't be able to trim this off. So that's an easy fix. I jumped the gun on that one. I'll zoom into there. I want to make this longer, so I'm going to take my line extension tool and just take and left click and left click. Now the reason I made it longer is so that I can hatch fill this black when I'm done, and I can trim it as well. So I can now use my trim tool, the second one in, and left click and left click. This I want to trim as well, but I have to use that first trim tool, trim one line. So left click and left click. Now when I selected this, it said trim shorter end. Okay, that's why it trimmed this side. So there's two options here. We can just simply get the line drawing tool and snap. Or what I could have done, I'll undo that. What I could have done, redo that. I can try deselecting this and then left click, and then still wanted to trim this side. So I guess I have to right click, enter. And then I'll left click, because it's a separate line, and just press delete. Okay, let's scroll over to the other side and see what we got going on here. Oh. So we're going to extend that line, just like we did on the other side. Right click, push it past, and left click. And now I'll take my double trim tool, left click. Ooh, that's not being very nice, is it? Control Z is your best friend. Control Z. Now, why did it do that? Sometimes the trim tools don't play nice. So let's take our line extension tool, and I'm going to just take and shorten this line. And sometimes it's the line lengths that give me grief. I'm just going to shorten these. I still need them to go past. Now I'm going to try that trim tool again. See if it works this time. Left click. No, it's not working. What the heck? Let's try trimming this one first with the first trim tool. Now Control Z is what I'm doing. Is if I make a mistake or something's not working, let's see, trim shorter end, left click. Okay, we've got some progress. Let's try that one now. Maybe it'll cooperate. Left click. Yes, there we go. I must have not had trim shorter end selected. Whew, that was a task and a half. Let's zoom out. Ooh, beautiful. We just want to take now and zoom back in and hatch fill this. Now we know if we've done it right if it only goes black in this area. So let's do that. Hatch fill is here. There's my hatch fill color. Remember, if you don't have that selected, we click on it, go to the bottom, and 7th one up is when solid. Press OK, left click. Awesome. It went black. I have a whole bunch of separate lines here, so let's take and group define it with this tool, this button. And then I'm going to zoom out, and I want to place this right here. Now where? Well, I want it to be centered. So let's take some measurements and do some math. I think that's probably the easiest way. By the time I do midpoint snaps, that doesn't seem to work. It didn't work too well for the sink. So let's do some math here. To do this, I'm going to measure using the measuring tool, the dimensioning tool. And I'm going to click on text and change this to a decimal, because it's way easier to do the math when it's a decimal. When I measure this, it's 2.5. And when I measure this, it's, oh, wow, that's quite the number. Okay, so remember, we can use every tool as a calculator. I want to subtract 2.5 from 6.667. Then I want to divide it by 2 to get to this point right here. Okay, so I'm taking this away from the total amount. Okay, and then dividing by 2 because I have two sides. So let's do that right in a drawing tool. I'm going to right click with my line drawing tool, and I'm going to, once I press point relative, remember all tools are calculators. So this, I want to put in 6.667, and I want to subtract 2.5. When I move my mouse, it'll do the calculation. No, it won't. So I'm going to click here, and it'll do the calculation. Now I'm going to click back here and go /2, which is divide by 2. And move my mouse and click, and it'll give me the answer, 2.0835. I'll press OK, and that I will actually put down here somewhere and left click. So that value is going to be the same here as on this side when I place this oven here. This I want to place at the hinging point of the door, which is here, so I'm going to snap, right click, and right click. Now if I take, I'm going to delete this to clean it up just by selecting it and pressing delete, and I'm going to select this and press delete, select this and press delete, and I'm going to check my math by getting the dimensioning tool and just snapping here, 2.083, and we'll do the same over here. And my numbers are the same. We know it's centered now. I hope you understood that. It was a little bit convoluted, but that's how I do it anyways. I always take tips from my viewers. I know my students here are tipping me all the time, and I'm learning a lot from them just as much as they're probably learning from me. So you can leave a comment if you have a better idea. Now, that's a lot of work. So what we generally do in drafting is we'll take and, well, at least I do, I take a lot of these images that I made, the sink, the stove, the dishwasher, and fridge, and I'll put them in another document, and I'll just call it my symbols library. DesignCAD has a symbols library, but it's not that great. It has various symbols, quite a few of them, but I like my own. So I just take and have a symbol libraries file, and then I just copy and paste those items into various documents. One of our major assignments we're going to be doing here is designing a single floor, single bedroom house, and you're just going to be able to take a lot of these appliances and put them right into that drawing. Now I believe that concludes Kitchen Drawing 2, our appliance lesson, so you can go ahead and save your work. And in video 3, we will be applying dimensions and a border and title block. That video shouldn't be quite as long. I hope you enjoyed. Have yourself a beautiful day.